Okay, here's Finance. Finance is a 16-hand 3-year-old by Central Banker, and he is coming right along. Of course, he's a 3-year-old in the spring, so he still is very young. So it's not like I'm not gonna put the pedal to the metal on him, especially with the jumping. That would be totally inappropriate. So he's doing very, very basic stuff. Ground poles, cavalettis. He did a tiny little X on this ride, and that's all he's doing. I could see him going out into the field and doing some logs at some point, but nothing big. We don't want to put a lot of mental pressure on him right now. We just want him to learn that going over sticks and things is like a fun, easy thing to do so that that can easily be built upon as he gets older and more mature. To be honest, though, it doesn't really take any convincing. He's pretty happy to do all the things. So for him, it's all about repetition. For most horses, it's all about repetition, right? I mean, perfect practice makes perfect. You have to just do these things over and over again until it's second nature for you and for the horse. And especially when it's such a young green horse, they need to go over a bazillion poles, a bazillion X's, a bazillion logs until making the right choice is just second nature and they don't even need to think about it. So for him, basically, I mean, what such a boring ride. We're basically just going to trot over a pile of poles a bunch of times and then canter over an X and trot over an X a few times, and that's it. But really, it's so interesting because you can watch the progression of how he approaches it, how he thinks through things. I left, the whole thing in here, so you're going to see him make some mistakes. You're going to see him sometimes, be crooked or have a trip or whatever it is, and it's not very pretty. But then you're also going to see him sort of think that through, come back around, what he does the next time, and sort of how he evolves over the course of a ride. And I always think that that is just the funnest thing about training horses is sort of that evolution of how they process things and the choices they make. So what I really like about this is that he is very repetitively without over jumping because he's not making too big of an effort. So making an appropriate effort over the poles, he's using them as a nice canter transition. Now, one thing I will say though is actually since this ride, I have switched up his bit. And so here he's in just a regular old full cheek snaffle with a peanut in the middle. And he's actually I felt he was getting a little bit low in this bit. By the time we got to the poles and stuff, it was fine. But our warm up on the flat, I felt like it was just a little bit too low. And I ended up doing just a whole bunch of trot walk transitions to help get him up more in the pole. And so here, this is fine. Actually, I really like his frame right here. But it took me a couple of minutes to convince him to come up. So I just sort of thought after this ride, it's time for a little bit of a bit change. It's wonderful that he wants to be round and soft, but we want him to, of course, we want to train the opposite. He wants to be very, very round and low in the frame. So we want to encourage him to bring it up. And especially since he's so young, we want to just ingrain that now. So it's not something that you have to spend time thinking about when he's 4, 5, and 6. So actually, Billy rode him the other day. He went Western and he was reportedly excellent. So I guess we'll have to make a Western video of him because Billy said he was super fun. But Billy rode him in the Fager Baby Fulmer, which is a titanium loose ring snaffle with the full cheek bars on it also. I do like him in the full cheek right now just because he's a baby 3-year-old. He's a little wiggly, steering and straightness are not perfect. But I was sort of hoping that, the loose ring having a little bit more play on the bit and the lightness of the titanium would encourage him to be up in the pole. And Billy said that he was excellent and they had a lot of fun. So I'm excited to sit on him in that bit also. And we'll have to also get a Western video because Billy was pretty excited about him after his ride. And this horse, I mean, what a lovely canter. It is just so smooth. It's like sitting on a Cadillac. Honestly, the hardest thing about this ride, about, doing the introduction, the jumping or the pulls or whatever it is, that was super cute. What a good boy. Such a good effort, really cute shape, landed in a great canter. What a good boy. Anyway, sorry, the hardest thing about riding him right now is honestly just the steering. He's not quite straight. He doesn't always, you can't just think left and then, oh, you're turning left. Like, no, it's still like a whole body effort to get this horse to turn left or right or whatever it is, which is very normal for a horse at his age and where he is in his training. But it is a normal thing. It's not a problem. It's just where he is on the training scale, especially for such a young horse. But I do think that because of that, the full cheek is definitely beneficial for him. It's like right here, these couple strides making this turn, hardest part of the whole ride. Actually getting to the jump, super easy. Now, what happened there was he had a little trip because we didn't get to the center of the X. He jumped it off to the right. And the reason we were off to the right was because actually we had a hard time making that turn that time. So I didn't have him straight to the base. He was sort of leaning on that right shoulder. And so he was jumping the higher side of the X where we should have been at the center. So he sort of knocked it with one of his front feet and had that little trip. So came back around and much, much smarter. He was much easier to turn. I could get him straight and right to the center of the X, and then he made a very cute little effort. And that was a great canter transition. Yeah, I love his frame here. The pole is up. There's quite a bit of kicking with the outside leg happening there. And so, ideally we would have kept coming in the canter, but this is always sort of a fine line, especially with such a young horse. I want to encourage him to keep coming in the canter. He's certainly ready to be doing that. However, if the horse is telling you that they need to put in the trot steps to fully understand or have their balance or whatever it is, I'm not going to not allow that. So, it's just sort of, it's a give and a take. It's a negotiation at this point. Because more than anything, what we want is for him to keep his confidence. And so we came back around the next time. I did not use any more pressure, any more leg or clucking than I had the time before, and he was happy to keep coming in the canter and actually jumped it really cute out of the canter. Horses, if I'm doing this with a 5 or a 6-year-old and they have a fantastic canter like this, you do expect it to come very, very easily, and maybe you do apply a little bit more nagging to keep coming in the canter. But this is such a young horse, and above all, we just want him to keep confident, and he clearly has a fantastic canter, so there's just absolutely no doubt that it will come. That was also very cute. Good boy. Now then, this is a tough turn to make because you're headed towards the gate. So of course, all these guys are like a moth to a flame towards the gate, and then he landed on the left lead. So making that turn sort of in the counter canter away from the gate is tough, but actually he was quite good. And then that was smart because he realized how much easier his life would be if actually he landed on the right lead to make that turn, and then sure enough, so much easier on him and me. So he did a good job of doing something that made sense. And that was very good. Nothing wrong with that distance. I would always prefer to have a slightly less gappy spot, but it was what it was, and he was a very good boy. So that one was sort of awkward because I didn't have that left shoulder. He was a little bit crooked and leaning out the left shoulder. Still made a really nice effort over the jump. We just weren't quite straight, and so we didn't get quite to the center. And also, I'm sure at this point he's getting sort of tired. So that time we fixed the straightness, and there's, again, nothing wrong with that distance. That time we got very much to the base, and he was super good because he stayed right straight. He figured out the footwork. It was an excellent effort on his part. At this point, I'm just thinking I would just like to smooth it out just a little bit, and then he's going to be done. And so that was the one. That was very good. So we ended on that.